It almost trickled into Wednesday as it was very late on Tuesday. So after 151 combined shots on goal, after the Penguins go to a backup goaltender because Casey DeSmith does have a lower body injury, Mike Sullivan confirmed after the game it wasn't cramps, it was a lower body injury. Unless he has cramps to his lower body, who knows? And at 11:48 p.m., in triple overtime, Evgeny Malkin did this.
With Malkin posting up at the top of the crease. Marino scores! And Pittsburgh wins! 4-3 in triple overtime.
That they do. And, wow, deep into the night. And that's where I want to start with this. There's so much that comes off of this. If you stayed up and you watched this game last night, early on, it was crazy. You wondered and you thought, well, can the Penguins match what the Rangers are doing from a physicality standpoint? Reeves was knocking people out right and left. Raquel got knocked out. The Penguins were trying to match it with speed. But pay attention to the last goal. And I want to go right to the very end of this hockey game as to what I think the pillar point is, or at least one of the biggest points. You watch how the Penguins scored the game winner. Mm-hmm. It comes off of just after a rush toward the other end, after they were on defense and the Penguins were able to clear some people out in front of their own net. Then they go down and they set up shop some, and Evgeny Malkin creates space. Evgeny Malkin creates traffic. Evgeny Malkin is there, and what he does is he makes sure Shesterkin is not comfortable. That was something that wasn't always in the DNA of the Penguins game last night or all season, but it definitely is one of the huge keys to success in the playoffs. And for that snippet of time, they did it, and it led to the game-winning goal.
In that first period that the Rangers dominated the way they did, where
first
they have
25 minutes.
15 shots on goal in the first period, that's exactly what the Rangers were doing and exactly what the Penguins were not doing. The Rangers were dominating the net front. I mean, they were dominating the entire game physically, really, but they were getting traffic in front as well. That got turned on its head in that particular moment. Credit to Kasperi Kapanen, who I thought had a fantastic game for taking that puck, carrying it low to high, cycling back out, finding Marino. Credit to Malkin, who really for the 3 hours previous to that moment, Colin, it looked like he was sleepwalking through the game. I mean, he's got an opportunity in overtime where he just kind of sits there and dangles with it at the top of the offensive zone. He'd had a few turnovers go back the other way that were not what you wanted to see in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But there he is in a big moment. We talked about the Stars having to come up big. He comes up big in a big moment. And now they've stolen home ice back at the very least.
Yeah, and credit to Chris Letang. Again, you circle the number, and it just blows you out of the water. 46 minutes of ice time Letang plays. He's almost matched. You had Miller. He played 44 minutes. Fox played 44 minutes for the Rangers. But Chris Letang, I thought, was one of the men of the match for being out there for so long and doing so much. But you have to take a look, and we will, at Louis Domingue. We'll talk about him in just a couple minutes. But what does this do for you for the rest of the series? You know, it would have been totally debilitating, I think, to go that long and lose one on the road. Your legs, you're not going to have them today. You're going to go into this game. You can walk out of New York with a split and still feel pretty darn good, considering how it would be. You outlasted a team on their home ice.
As long as they got out of New York with a split in the first two and didn't, luck into it, I was going to feel good about it. And I don't consider last night's win luck. They carried the play for much of the time. In the second period, third period as well, they looked solid. And then in overtime, I'll be honest, especially once you got past about the 15-minute mark of the second OT, the Pens looked like they had the better legs.
Right.
Especially their top line. Especially when we talked yesterday about the Stars, we mentioned, hey, not just Crosby, Malkin, Letang, but Rust and Gensel, right? Like, those guys have to show up. I think I may have even thrown Marino's name out there as well. And those guys, the younger stars.
Well, there were times Rust was undeniably the fastest person on the ice, and there were times that Gensel, I thought, in flashes, was the best person on the ice.
Yes. And that's exactly – they did not luck into that one. Disallowed goal, you can talk about that all you want. Whatever you want to make an excuse for this morning – The Rangers had plenty of opportunities, I think, to put that one away. The Penguins didn't let them do it. And that has to change how you feel, I think, just a little bit about the rest of the series.
Absolutely. You can't continue to hammer and try to play with that speed all over the place game, but you can pick your spots. And I think when the Penguins outshot the Rangers in that second period 25-8, they definitely picked their spots. Fan Morning Show presented by Matt Mertz Plumbing, now part of the Armstrong Comfort Solutions family. And no question, you got to talk about our guy, Louis Domingue, who it all came to him as he was sitting there. He's minding his business, and he thought a joke was being played on him. This is the best part of all this, I think. Well, on top of him getting a win, on top of him having to jump out there and make a save, a big one right away, and ending up with 17 saves. Well, he's sitting there. He's halfway down the tunnel. He's minding his business, and then this happens.
Well, first of all, I saw him go to the bench, and I wasn't sure why they just blew the whistle. And it happened that I know both of the referees that were there, Johnny Murray and Frédéric Lécuyer, both French guys, and I honestly thought they were joking with me when they were saying that I had to go in, and after that you just go out and play, and it was crazy, but I guess that's my life. It's hockey.
It is. That's my life. So
That's my life.
He's got to be ready, and he's got to pull kind of an in-game Zatkoff, get out there and get it done. It was – I bet if you revert back to that very moment when he skated out there and he took the crease, I would bet there was more negativity than positivity from people that stayed up and watched that game at that very moment.
I just kind of resigned myself
apprehension.
At that. Yeah, I resigned myself at that point.
Can I go back? I wasn't going to blame him for anything. That's where I was.
Yeah, I just kind of went, oh, man, is this the way they're going to lose this? Mm-hmm. They're going to lose this game with the third-string goalie in there. That's going to stink if that's the way it goes. And then he gets those two quick saves out of the way early, and you're like, oh, okay. Domingue might be okay. Here we go. Let's go. And so credit to him, man. And who knows how long he'll have to step in for. This is the wild part now, is if they want to get through this series, if all of a sudden you feel that much more positively about them getting past the Rangers in this series, there's a good chance they're going to have to do it with Louis freaking Domingue in goal.
And Domingue is a guy who's always in tune to what's going on the ice.
I'd be lying if I said that I was engaged all the time. I was, it comes a time where you're just a fan also. You just want your team to score, and I was just focusing on I was just there. I was watching, and it just comes at you fast. It's crazy.
Yeah, loosey-goosey. We'll hear the honesty. We'll hear the full Louis Domingue coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. But he goes from being that fan to the guy watching the game. He thought that a joke was being played on him by the two French referees to getting out there and seeing a puck right away. So how he handled that was like this.
Right away, I quite honestly, I felt good right away. I felt zero pressure. It was you dream about that your whole life. You're playing in overtime in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? Like, there's no. You think that you would be nervous going into a situation like that, but it was just fun for me.
Man, is this dude a breath of fresh air?
Yeah.
I mean, he really has a perspective on it that is the dead-on sports talk perspective when you're trying to guess how someone would look at this situation. He verbalized it and said it. And no pressure, you're the third guy. Hell, if you screw up, nobody's going to think it's on you anyway. Right. And he really thought that way going in.
Light on his feet, not just physically, but mentally. I mean, you kind of have to be a third-string goalie come playoff time, right? Because you're looking at it thinking, oh, man, I'm never going to see the ice, right? And then all of a sudden, like he's talking about, something happens there, and maybe you've just been sitting there watching it like a fan. And imagine, like, you go through warm-ups and everything, and then you tighten back up, and you sit there. He sat there for what, 3.5 hours or so before he finally gets thrown into the game, and all of a sudden you're asked to perform, and to be able to, like I said, stay light on his feet, not just physically, but stay light on his feet mentally and just kind of walk in there and go, it's just kind of like practice. It's no big deal.
Yeah, and to play 16 minutes to get out there and, like you said, have been sitting there essentially all night is absolutely wild to me. So